What makes a good musician? I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I felt compelled to share my thoughts and to share my perspective on this subject with you guys. Quick disclaimer up front, I'm not here to tell you what to enjoy and how to enjoy your music. Of course not. That's the beauty of music, right? It's free. You can do whatever you want and enjoy whatever you want. All I want to do here is share my own unique perspective. And I do think that listening to other perspectives can make you a better musician and maybe even a better person. So take it for what you will. And of course, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this subject. Also, if you disagree, that's absolutely fine. Anyway, for many years now, there has been this trend, especially online with musicians, let's say guitarists and drummers, that they want to be as skilled as possible and as technical as possible and as fast as possible. You know, they try to outplay each other. And sometimes it almost seems as if it's like a competition of who can play the fastest shreds and who can do the fastest arpeggios and stuff. And that is cool. I mean, I have a lot of respect for that. It takes a lot of effort and dedication to get those skills, right? However, an effect of that is that, to my ears at least, a lot of those musicians, they sound kind of the same because it's, you know, it's a very impressive and mechanical thing that they're doing. But sometimes I sort of miss the musical identity that those musicians have to offer in terms of the music that they make. You know, when everything you do is all about technique and playing very impressive, everything sort of starts to sound the same, if you know what I mean, because a lot of people are very skilled. And I do think that sometimes, like the flaws in our playing and the imperfections in our playing, those are the things that sometimes give us the musical identity. And I think that in terms of being creative as people, we are in a kind of a scary time with AI right now, because AI can, you know, create music from scratch. And the reason why that scares me is because musical identity that people have to offer, we as people, we as actual musicians, might be shoved off to the side a little bit here because AI can do it all anyway, right? But the beauty of music, to me anyway, is that it's created by human beings, by creative, alive human beings, right? And I hope you agree with me on that. It would be a shame if that were to get lost because of computers and stuff, but I digress. So while on the one hand, there is this urge to get more skilled, you know, and urge to shred perfectly and all that stuff, there's also a trend online of sort of really criticizing certain players. Let's take Kirk Hammett from Metallica, for example, or Lars Ulrich. Now, I will say that I love Metallica. Kirk Hammett and James, of course, all the members of Metallica have really inspired me, and they've helped form me as a musician, you know? And obviously it goes without saying that those guys have influenced millions of people. And I think that they are actually great musicians. And what I like about Kirk and Lars, even though they're not perfect, you know, they're human beings, they play with flaws, they make mistakes and stuff. What I love about them is that they have musical identity. Let's be honest here. When you hear Kirk Hammett play a solo, you can hear that it's him. When Lars Ulrich plays one of his signature beats, you can hear that it's him. Of course, that has to do with the tone and the kind of drums that he uses. In the case of Kirk, you know, the type of guitars that he uses, but also the unique feel that they're playing with. And I'm taking those two guys as examples because they, you know, get a lot of hate online for playing sloppy. There are many videos on YouTube, hundreds, maybe thousands, where people are making jokes of mistakes that they're making just because they're human. They're not a computer, they're not AI, they are human beings with a lot of experience and a lot of success, obviously, but they do make mistakes. So making fun of mistakes, whether it's those guys in that huge band or whether you're in a small band, that is a thing. And I think that that is a very, very bad thing. And perhaps when people are making fun of other musicians, let's say of Kirk and Lars, a lot of that perhaps comes from their own insecurities, right? Because again, there's this urge online to be a great musician and to play super technical and super flawless and fast, right? But you cannot deny that those two guys, whether you like them or not, have musical identity. When they're playing their music, you can hear that it's them. And I personally think that that is great. I mean, as I said, I'm a Metallica fan. I enjoy listening to them. Anyway, this is just an example to show you guys how critical some people have become on other musicians and on imperfections. and also to highlight the focus that a lot of people seem to have when it comes to playing their instrument, on playing as fast and as technical as possible. So in the current metal scene, there are a lot of very gifted musicians, and that is great. I mean, it's great to see a lot of musicians taking their craft and their instrument very seriously, right? And it's good to have those skills. I mean, that means that you're free to create anything that you want musically. And that is absolutely a wonderful and a great thing. And I especially hope that those musicians and people all around the world are just enjoying making music, because that's the most important thing. But my question is, where is the musical identity of many of those players? And do you know what I mean? Where is the musical identity? Where's the uniqueness? Where are the quirks? Where are the imperfections? And do skills make you a great musician? Do you really need those skills in order to be a great musician? I will give you some examples of very skilled bands and musicians that I enjoy listening to and that I've enjoyed listening to for many years. Take Meshuggah, for example, one of my favorite bands. They're insanely skilled, right? And they're putting those skills to use in their music. Same thing with Dream Theater, like John Petrucci, for example. Insanely skilled, and he's using those skills to create some really good music. Steve Vai, that's another musician, right? But the thing with those musicians is that I think, this is my opinion of course, their skills and their techniques complement the music. And they're doing it to serve the music. And again, all those players, Meshuggah, for example, they have a musical identity. I know that a lot of people in the case of Meshuggah, try to sort of emulate them, and that is cool. I sometimes do that a little bit myself too when I'm playing my 8-string, but nobody will ever sound like Meshuggah because they have that really unique identity, and that's why I love them so much. Same thing with Steve Vai. He's very skilled, but he doesn't only focus on those skills. He focuses on melody a lot and to create unique vibes. And you can always hear that it's him. So he's another case of a musician that has a real unique musical identity. So there are definitely examples of very skilled musicians that have a lot of musical identity, obviously. But I also believe that the art of simplicity is lost a little bit. Especially in a lot of modern metal, it's all about creating productions and songs that are very complicated and fast, and there's a lot of stuff happening all the time. Maybe I'm just getting too old, but when I'm listening to a lot of modern metal, it's just a bit too much to take in. And I don't have that when I'm listening to Meshuggah, for example. Even there's a lot coming at you, but they don't stuff their production with samples and things to keep the attention of the listener, basically. You know what I mean? And of course, there are exceptions, but that's just like a broad statement about the current metal scene, if you will. I mean, if I take Until It Sleeps from Metallica, for an example, because I've been listening to Load a lot recently, because of the remaster that they released, there's this solo in Until It Sleeps. It's like super simple, but that solo hits so hard every time. That's one of my favorite solos from that record, actually. And it's not complicated at all, but it's just perfect for the music. It's perfect for the song. It really works in context of the song, Another musician that I really enjoy is John Mayer. I started listening to his music probably around 2004, so it's over 20 years ago now. And he started as a musician that really wanted to show people how skilled he was, right? Take songs like Neon, for example, with his unique picking and stuff. But with his more recent records, he has sort of stripped down all of that and gone back to the basics with a couple chords, maybe some layers here and there, and just having the focus on the melody and the lyrics. And I have to admit that I enjoy his later songs that are like that much more than his older music, where it was like showing off how well he could play. And now he doesn't seem to appreciate that as much himself. And he likes to focus more on the simplicity and going to the core, the core of the emotions that he's trying to convey with his song and with the mood. I believe that some of the songs on his latest couple of records are just some of the best things that he's ever written. And there's not a whole lot happening there musically in terms of technique, right? So no matter how good and how skilled you are, I think we should be careful not to forget about some of the most important elements in music. Of course, that's emotion, lyrics, groove, chord progressions, melodies. Even in super complicated and fast metal, you can have those things. They don't need to get lost. Because the more you stray away from some of those things, the more the music that you make starts to lose identity. I think this is often the case anyway. Now, I want to give some tips taken from my own unique perspective, because maybe some of these things will help to sort of set you free a little bit in terms of the music that you create and the boundaries that you experience as you're making music. And I want to give you a little bit of context first, real quick. I have this condition called focal dystonia. I made a complete video about it explaining what it is and how it has affected my life as a musician. It basically has an effect on the skills of my left hand, so my fretting hand. My music has become more simple and limited, technically speaking. I can't do all the things that I used to be able to play. So my playing is just more simple, and I have to navigate sort of through the things that I can do and the things that I can't do anymore. And I think that that contributes to the fact that I have a unique perspective on this. And of course, that whole thing is horrible. You know, it has a negative impact on my technical abilities. But at the same time, it has changed my perspective a little bit on music. And the focus that I have shifted. The lack of technical skills that I have right now have sort of changed me as a musician. In the past, when I wanted to make some music, of course, I was a younger person too, so that will have an effect, on this. But I would sit down with my guitar and I'd be like, okay, I want to write something. It has to be different. It has to be cool. It has to be impressive, And a lot of times I ended up with stuff that just wasn't really good. And afterwards, I always would feel like, it's not great. It's just, I was trying to outdo myself and trying to become better and better, right? And now there's none of that, okay? I never tried to outdo myself technically. I'm way less judgmental about my skills and the musical ideas that I come up with. And to be honest, I nowadays hardly ever write music that I'm not happy about, and that used to be very different. So my focus has shifted from trying to be a better player to things like groove, textures, moods, chord progressions, even tone is a big thing for me. And that's just personally because I love guitar gear, obviously, but guitar tone, for me, I love how that can contribute to a mood and the overall sound of a production, let's say. And I'm not really critical anymore about my playing and style. I mean, I used to be in some bands, and then when we came up with some ideas, and if it didn't really fit that box that we had, it's not good. There's too much of this, and it sounds too much like that. And now, there's no judgment at all. Any musical idea that comes to me, I just let it come, and I accept it for what it is, and then I play it and record it, So I guess what I'm trying to say here also is, if you're not skilled technically, don't worry. You can make some beautiful, beautiful music without all those skills. And I really want you to know that, especially if you're starting out with playing music and feeling overwhelmed by all those amazing guitarists who are playing super fast. Some people can reach those heights as well if they practice enough, but not everyone, and that's okay. So I do want to share some tips with you based on my personal experience, especially to people out there who feel that they're not good enough in comparison to all those great players out there. Tip number one is, don't force it, okay? Just like me in the past, if you're sitting down with a guitar and you're trying to write something and it's not working out, forcing it isn't going to make it better. Never force it. If it's not working out, leave it be. And then wait until another idea comes to you somehow. And that brings us to tip number two. Try to let the music come to you and try not to sort of, again, force it out, but just wait for it to happen. How I like to write my music, there's basically two ways. I'm a guitar player, for the record, but sometimes I'm walking outside or I'm riding my bike and then a groove idea comes to my head. Whatever, Oh, that's a cool groove. I grab my phone and I record that idea for later. Other times I'm just playing my guitar, not really thinking about it much, and then I come across a cool chord or two chords, and then I'm like, oh, that's cool, that's inspiring. Let's play that for a little while and find a cool rhythm or something like that. But I never say to myself, okay, I need to write something now. I just wait until the music ideas come to it, and I think that you have to be really open to that and sort of accept the fact that some ideas, they just come to you. You don't have to actively try to come up with them, if you know what I mean. And perhaps this also has to do with experience. I guess the more you do this, the better you get at it, right? So practice makes perfect, but not practice in the form of forcing it, but just practice letting it come to you and letting it happen. And if something seems kind of familiar, or if something seems simple, accept that and go with it. Follow the music. Tip number 3, don't be so critical on yourself. You know, just as I mentioned, if there's a chord progression that comes to you that seems familiar, whatever, if it seems cool, that's fine. If you feel like there's some technical skill missing in there, but it's still inspiring to you, just go with it. And don't try to be so critical on yourself. Also, when you're playing something and it's not complicated enough, it's not fast enough, maybe I need to add some notes. And if that's making you more frustrated and stuff, calm down. Again, don't be so critical on yourself when it comes to style and when it comes to technique. It's not necessary to create good music. That's what I'm saying, I guess. So yeah, allow yourself to also create music that is a bit more simple sometimes. I mean, I do that all the time, okay? Since I sort of lack the skills to play really complicated stuff and certain skills and certain runs, I don't play a lot of lead guitar because of that. And that's okay. At the end of the day, I just try to write something that feels good and that sort of inspires myself as well, because I think it's a good thing to sort of play stuff that inspires you, you know. But if you can create great music with little means and not a lot of technique per se, and you can create something that really resonates with you, even though it's simple, whether it's lyrics or a drum beat or a guitar riff, and if that just does it for you, then especially in those cases, you don't need more than that. You don't need more skills in order to create something that is moving and something that inspires you and something that makes you enthusiastic, something to groove to and something to move to, if you know what I mean. And I guess in this age of people playing so fast and technical, playing a bit more simple might make you more unique, if you know what I mean, because it might set you apart from all those other musicians who are just so incredibly skilled. I guess I'm also an old man yelling in clouds. I'm 39, you know, and I've been through a lot in terms of, you know, what I was talking about, my condition and stuff. And nowadays, when people show me a guitarist who's very skilled, oh, take a listen to this dude or this girl, they're so talented. I have a lot of respect for it and I can appreciate it in a technical sense, but it doesn't really do anything for me when it comes to music. And you might be different, and that's totally fine. I mean, as I said in the beginning, there are no rules. In the end, you just have to enjoy music in any way that you want, you know, in any way that you like, in any way that inspires you and makes you happy. And of course, technical skills can be a part of that. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's try to keep our musical identity. In this age of computers who can just replicate us in a couple of seconds, right? And especially when your music has little identity, then what's the difference really, right? So let's try as a musical collective to stay human. And let's not forget about the art of simplicity. And let's also not forget that skill isn't everything. You can create amazing music with little technical means as musicians. And I think we should applaud musicians who are unique and who have their own musical identity, even if it means that their playing is, you know, flawed and not perfect. I'd rather listen to Lars Ulrich playing a drum beat with a slightly, you know, laid back snare or whatever and a bit of an out of rhythm kick than somebody who's like super skilled and super technical all the time, but where the music is just kind of forgetful. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's my rant. I'll stop here. Let me know your thoughts. I think this is a very interesting topic, and I think that everybody has a different perspective on this. Also because of, you know, what we've been through as humans, what your age is, what your musical preference is. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this subject. I appreciate you listening to me, you know, to hear out my perspective. Really appreciate that. If you're still here, wow, that's impressive. If you want to support this channel, you can buy something at my affiliate links for Tolman and Sweetwater, or get something in my web store like a guitar IR pack or a Quad Cortex capture pack. Also, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. I make guitar-focused content, you know, gear reviews, guitar reviews, amp reviews, and stuff like that. And I like simple but hard-hitting riffs. And yeah, support each other, you know, be kind to one another. Let's try to tone down the bullying a little bit, even though, you know, these people might be very famous. It's not all about them. It's also about how we perceive one another on the internet. Okay. All right, guys, take care and make some awesome music. Cheers.